Clara Thompson, known as the Visionary, built Thompson Technologies from a rented desk in a rundown suburb into a billion-dollar fintech giant. At 25, defying societal biases as a black woman, she scraped together funds and worked tirelessly, often sleeping at her desk. Over 35 years, her grit turned dreams into a skyscraper towering over New York, its logo a nightly beacon. A champion of equality and respect, she never forgot her humble roots. After decades leading, she entrusted the company to her son Nathan, only to disguise herself as a janitor, Clara Evans, to uncover a betrayal threatening her legacy. Before continuing the story, enjoying Clara's journey? Please like and subscribe to keep the stories flowing. Thanks, let's dive back in. The room was thick with tension, shame hanging heavy in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Do you still not understand your place, Clara?" sneered Leonard Grayson, the operations manager, his voice sharp and venomous, cutting through the silence. "You're nothing but a janitor, less than nothing. Scrub this floor again until I can see my reflection in it, or don't bother showing your face here tomorrow." Clara Thompson stood before him, her posture steady despite the venom in his words. "Sir, I've cleaned it multiple times already," she replied, her tone calm, almost serene, a quiet strength underpinning every syllable. Leonard didn't respond with words. Instead, he snatched a cup of ice-cold water from a nearby table and, with a deliberate flick of his wrist, poured it over her head. The frigid liquid cascaded down her graying hair, trickled over her weathered face, and soaked into her faded janitor's uniform, pooling in a mocking puddle on the freshly polished floor. She flinched at the sudden chill, but what truly pierced her was the calculated cruelty of the act, the sheer disdain in his eyes. "Now you've got something real to clean," Leonard mocked, his lips curling into a triumphant sneer as he turned and strode away, leaving her drenched and humiliated. He couldn't have known that the woman he'd just degraded wasn't some powerless janitor. Clara Thompson was no ordinary worker. She was the architect of this very empire, the founder of Thompson Technologies, a fintech juggernaut she'd built from the ground up. She was a woman with the resolve, the resources, and the raw determination to bring his entire world crashing down in an instant. High above the chaotic pulse of New York City, the Thompson Technologies skyscraper pierced the skyline, its sleek glass facade and glowing logo, a testament to decades of innovation and grit. Behind this towering success stood Clara Thompson, a name whispered in the industry with reverence, the trailblazer. She hadn't been born into privilege. At 25, a black woman facing a society stacked against her, Clara dared to dream big. With nothing but a cramped rented office in a rundown suburb and a handful of dollars scraped together from friends, she set out to forge a financial tech empire. She worked tirelessly, nights spent hunched over a desk that doubled as her bed when rent was out of reach, slowly turning her vision into reality. 35 years later, Thompson Technologies was a billion-dollar powerhouse, employing thousands worldwide, a monument to her perseverance. Yet Clara never forgot the sweat and sacrifice of her early days, the hunger that drove her, or the values she'd woven into the company's DNA: equality, creativity, and respect for all. But time marches on, relentless and unforgiving. After more than 3 decades at the helm, Clara knew it was time to step back. She entrusted the company to her only son, Nathan Thompson, a Harvard graduate she'd groomed meticulously to uphold her legacy. Nathan was brilliant, disciplined, and steeped in the principles she'd instilled, values she believed would guide the company into the future. Yet after relinquishing her role, troubling rumors began to filter through her network of loyal former colleagues. Whispers of arrogance among senior managers, mistreatment of lower-tier staff, subtle discrimination, and a growing atmosphere of fear and tension. Could Nathan, her pride and joy, have let the company she'd poured her soul into drift so far from its roots? The thought gnawed at her, a splinter of doubt she couldn't ignore. Unable to sit idle as her life's work unraveled, Clara made a radical decision, one that would shock anyone who knew her. She would disguise herself as an ordinary janitor and infiltrate Thompson Technologies, working among the very people she'd once led, to see the truth with her own eyes. Dressed in a plain gray uniform, adopting the alias Clara Evans, the woman who'd once commanded boardrooms would now sweep floors, seeking justice and answers. She kept her plan secret, even from Nathan, knowing the stakes were too high for half measures. On her first night, her heart fluttered with a mix of nerves and nostalgia as she slipped through the staff entrance, the dim lights casting long shadows across a building that no longer felt like home. The office was a far cry from the warm, vibrant place she remembered. Gone were the respectful nods and cheerful greetings. In their place, a cold indifference greeted her as young employees rushed past, oblivious to the old janitor in their midst. Her shift began at 10 p.m., and a gruff middle-aged supervisor handed her a cleaning cart with a few meager supplies before disappearing without a word. Standing alone in a long, empty hallway, her name tag reading Clara, she felt a pang of isolation, a stark contrast to the authority she'd once wielded. Then came Leonard Grayson, the new operations manager, a man she'd only heard of through Nathan. Tall, with slicked-back dark hair and a tailored suit, he exuded a suffocating air of self-importance. He stopped short, eyeing her from head to toe. "New here, huh?" he barked. "We don't pay for slow old people. Move faster. I don't want a speck of dust left." Clara nodded politely. "Yes, sir. I'll be thorough." Leonard smirked, deliberately scuffing his polished shoes across her clean floor, leaving muddy streaks before sauntering off. That same night she encountered Miles Carter, the young, stylish marketing director, known for his cutting wit and trendy attire. Spotting her mopping the common area, he frowned. "Hurry up, lady. Our work's important. Yours isn't." He stormed into his office, slamming the door with a bang that reverberated through the silence. Clara stood still, her hand, once accustomed to signing multi-million-dollar contracts, now trembling slightly on the mop handle. She took a deep breath, reminding herself this was just the beginning. She was here to uncover the truth, no matter how bitter. The days that followed were a slow grind of revelation and resolve. On Thursday, cleaning near the 42nd floor elevators, Clara witnessed Leonard berate a young janitor, Lucia, a soft-spoken Latina in her early 30s. Lucia had accidentally spilled a bottle of cleaner, a few drops splashing Leonard's gleaming shoes. His voice exploded through the corridor. "Do you know how much these cost? You'll never afford them in a lifetime of scrubbing." Lucia shrank, apologizing profusely, but Leonard loomed closer. "People like you need to stay in line. One more mistake, and you're out." He stormed off, leaving Lucia trembling, tears streaking her pale face. Clara rushed to her side, offering quiet comfort, her heart aching as Lucia wiped her eyes and resumed work as if nothing had happened. Miles was no better. His cruelty was subtler but no less corrosive. He'd scatter papers or spill coffee on his desk, then watch Clara clean, only to demand she do it again. "Why do we hire useless old folks like you?" he sneered one night, his voice cold as ice. "A vacuum bot could outdo you." Clara bowed her head, swallowing the pain, but each insult fueled her determination. She saw the janitors' bowed heads, their hurried steps to avoid notice, their voiceless endurance. This wasn't just disrespect. It was a culture of dehumanization, a betrayal of everything she'd built. One Wednesday evening, as Clara finished the 38th floor hallway, Leonard appeared, his shadow looming under the harsh lights. "Done, Clara?" he asked, his tone chilling. "Yes, Mr. Grayson," she replied. He pulled a white cloth from his pocket, wiped a spotless corner, and held it up, pristine yet somehow proof of her failure. "This is clean to you? Redo it all," he scoffed, dropping the cloth. She complied silently, her resolve unshaken. Days later, in the 40th floor conference room, he sipped coffee and mused. "You'll always be a janitor because you've got no ambition, no spine." He tipped the cup, dark drops staining the floor. "Clean it till I see my face in it," he ordered. Clara did, her hands steady, her mind racing with the weight of his cruelty. The breaking point came one weekend night. Clara was checking the main office when Leonard stormed in, trailed by junior staff, his eyes locked on her, cold and hostile. "Still don't get our standards, Clara?" he taunted. "I've followed procedure, sir," she said evenly. He smirked. "Procedure? I always find flaws." The staff whispered, tension mounting. Suddenly, he splashed a cup of icy water over her head, soaking her anew. "Now clean," he said, reveling in the silence that followed. The staff froze, too scared to act, as Clara stood drenched, the ultimate humiliation searing her soul, not as a janitor, but as the founder of this now corrupted empire. Alone, she wiped her face, hands shaking with suppressed rage. She thought of Lucia's tears, the janitor's silent suffering, and vowed this wouldn't be for nothing. Leonard's act had ignited a fire she couldn't quench. Next, she turned to Miles. His games, spilled drinks, endless redos, wore her down. No wisdom in you, huh? He'd taunt, swiping frames to prove her incompetence. Desperate, she sought Margaret Ellis, the HR director, a once compassionate woman, now distant behind her desk. Leonard and Miles torment us, Clara pleaded. Margaret sighed. Toughen up, Clara. You're a janitor. Do your job, not theirs. Stunned, Clara saw the rot ran deep. Then came Sylvia Harper, VP of Business. One night, cleaning the 44th floor conference room, Sylvia burst in. Why are you here? She snapped. Just my schedule, ma'am, Clara replied. Sylvia's hand lashed out, slapping her hard. Know your place, she hissed, leaving Clara reeling. That slap was a clarion call. She'd fight, not fold. Clara hid cameras on her cart, recording every slight. One night she overheard Leonard, Miles, Sylvia, and Margaret plotting in a hushed 42nd floor meeting. Nathan's on to us, Leonard warned. We need him gone. Sylvia agreed. He's soft. We'll lead. Margaret added, I've fudged the files. Nathan's unfit. Miles laughed. Profits over ethics. Clara's heart sank, but her evidence grew. She met Nathan at his apartment. I've been Clara Evans, a janitor, she confessed, handing him a USB. They're betraying you. Nathan paled, hearing the recordings. We fight, he resolved, gripping her hand. The next day, Nathan called an emergency board meeting. Clara, as Clara Evans, cleaned outside as the traitors fidgeted within. Nathan began, I have proof of a conspiracy. Leonard scoffed, spotting Clara. What's this useless janitor doing here? Clara stepped forward, shedding her disguise. I'm Clara Thompson, she declared, plugging in the USB. The room gasped as the plot unfolded. Nathan acted. I propose their termination. The board agreed, and security escorted the four out, their arrogance shattered. Clara spoke. We reclaim our values, respect, dignity for all. Nathan vowed reform, transparency, fairness. Applause erupted, hope reborn. Months later, Thompson Technologies thrived anew. Clara advised Nathan, who grew into a compassionate leader. Employees spoke freely, trust returned, and the company became a beacon of humanity. At a celebration, Nathan honored Clara. Her courage saved us. She smiled, knowing her fight for justice, for the voiceless, had prevailed. What would you do in Clara's shoes? Share below.